This is Tiger Ascari. Thanks for coming back. Today is February 22nd, 2026. It is Sunday. It is God's Day. I'm participating in Lent this year, so, I have been fasting. I've been reading my Bible, and just in all around, just getting closer to Christ. And I wanted to make this video today after seeing a bunch of Muslims praying in Times Square and seeing Sneako as well. Shout out to Sneako. I like him. I've been watching him for a long time. And shout out to him. But one thing, through this discourse, especially his kind of evolution into Islam, and then his criticisms of Christianity, as well as others' criticisms of Christianity as well, it's actually helped me come closer to the faith and come closer to Christ, as I'm kind of going down this journey of where I fit in this world of Christianity. I often talked about wanting to convert to Orthodoxy or Catholicism, and I've been doing a lot of studying of Christian history, especially going back to the early church fathers, as well as the Crusades history. And I actually went to the Vatican. Very beautiful. I highly recommend everyone go, whether you're Catholic or not. Very beautiful place. And just kind of being immersed in that culture really for the first time. And as an American, I really, in the grander scheme of things, the United States is such a new country that I think we're still trying to figure ourselves out when it comes to where we're at spiritually. I do think that this country was founded on Christian ethics, with the strong implication that we were a Christian country. Definitely not a Muslim one, considering our conflicts with Muslims during the Barbary Wars. But I digress. I would say Sneako's criticisms of Christianity, as well as his foregoing into his faith, definitely makes me want to take more accountability for mine. And I think a lot of people, especially in our day and age, are very easy just kind of finger waving and kind of shoving, criticizing other people without trying to criticize themselves first. And I think some humility would go a long way in doing that. So that's my first thing. The Sneako's helped me take more accountability as who I am as a Christian, and more so standing up for myself and being more proudly a follower of Christ. And as I said, I'm participating in Lent. I mean, I work overnight, so it's kind of easy for me because I just go to sleep. I don't eat, and then I just eat at night. I have been doing that. But during that time, I have been studying more Christian history. I'm going to be buying the book, The Two Swords of Christ. It's a very comprehensive kind of telling of Christians during the Crusades. Because as a kid, growing up, when we learn about the Crusades, we always just hear about Christians just pillaging and destroying the Holy Land, and kind of it's like a facet of early colonialism, when in actuality, it was the Christian world finally defending itself after years and years and years of Muslim and Ottoman incursions and Moorish incursions into Europe. There was that. Really just kind of brushing up on my history. And also, too, is also being unapologetically Christian as well, especially in this day and age. The Muslims believe what they believe, the Jews believe what they believe. But when it comes to Christianity, I think a very fair criticism to have for Muslims, or from Muslims, and Jews in particular, is, how can I say this? Christians are expected to be absolutely perfect, and any straying from that perfection, it's just a constant finger waving, especially from non-religious people, especially from progressives and whatnot, or lefties in the United States. But at the same time, I think that sometimes that is a fair criticism because the way Christianity has manifested in the United States, it's, you see like Joel Osteen or Creflo Dollar, and these are just, oh, they're so perfect and unblemished and infallible, and oh, they're just the ray of sunshine, when throughout history, there were some like before coming to Christ, there were some terrible, sinful people. And that's kind of the idea: is acknowledging your sin and trying to constantly work to be a better person for it, not claiming that you're perfect and then when you fall, you don't take accountability for it, and then you just get egg on your face and you look crazy. So it's kind of like the pastor that's like all holier than thou, and then comes to find out that he buys prostitutes and does meth and something like that. As an example, but I think understanding church history and understanding who the early Christians were, who the disciples were, who were the Christians that carried the faith in history were, I think that's true Christianity. And so it's teaching me not to kind of latch on to these kind of jester maxing performers of today. It's kind of holding on true to the faith of being more Christ-like, of being more, more humble in my faith, and understanding. I'm definitely not knowledgeable enough to debate someone on the Bible, or I'm not an apologist or anything like that. But it does kind of light a fire in me to understand more what I'm talking about, what I'm doing, what I'm praying for, towards what and why. So there was that. But the other thing too, as far as a criticism, I would throw at Muslims, and it wouldn't be the typical, like Aisha debate, like, oh, she was, she was 9 years old when Muhammad blah blah blah. Like that's whatever. That was a different time. Of course we disagree with it in the modern age, but that was a wildly different time. I would say like in the European Middle Ages, there were girls being married when they were like early teens, middle teens, like 14, 15, 16, sometimes even younger. So different time. Of course, she was a child, and so that's wild. But different time. I'm not even going to try to criticize Islam for that. However, what I would criticize Islam for is definitely the idea of trying to the practice of taqiyya, or I'm probably butchering that, but it's lying about your faith. In the event that you fear for your life, or you fear for your safety, and trying to and lying about your faith in that regard, or lying to non-believers in order to push the faith or to promote the faith, and that's what I do not like. I don't like. I don't like the subversion, and I've watched plenty of videos, like apologetics videos, where some, like, you could tell when they're lying, like boldface just lying about what the true like Muslims want to do, as well as there's countless other videos I've seen of moderate Muslims being perfectly okay with something like a Sharia law. You see, Islam can never ever happen in the United States, or true Islam, I should say, because if you were trying to implement Sharia law, it would be antithetical to the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. It just would not work. But again, they don't care. So they do have a duty to lie and subvert non-believers in order to promote their faith. And that comes into also understanding Islamic history, not the Quran, but how it was applied in history with Muhammad. And Muhammad there were many violent times during the kind of rise of Islam. There are a lot of violent times, and that's how they spread the faith. They were spreading that with the sword a lot, and throughout the Middle East and throughout Africa and throughout Europe, what have you. So when they talk about when they lie and say, "Oh, we're a religion of peace," well, what does that mean? But I think Christianity is the true religion of peace. And, I'll just kind of leave this off here. Christianity, I think, requires a certain humility to it. And it requires a certain kind of a deep introspection into yourself, into your heart. And it's just like, you can outwardly say, I do, like, I truly believe in Jesus Christ. But if you don't have that feeling in your heart, then, you will go to hell, and you will not go to the paradise. You will not go to the promised land. You will not go to heaven. You will not join Jesus Christ there. You will not. Um, you know, uh, Last thing here is, on top of that, a lot of people that criticizes Christianity in general, they say, Christians, they don't defend themselves. Oh, you just turn the other cheek. You don't defend yourselves. That's why Islam is spreading across the West. Blah blah blah. But then when Christians do stand up and defend themselves, then they will immediately turn two-face, and then they will say, oh, you're not supposed. They will criticize Christians because the moment Christianity does, like, stand up for itself, then they will criticize and say, no, 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 you're not supposed to do that. This is what Muslims who criticize the faith do. This is also what Jews do as well, and that's a whole other discussion. As we're looking at possible war with Iran here very soon. But it's just on top of that, just non-believing forces in general. It Another thing that brings me closer to Christ is understanding that, Islam isn't attacked as much as, or Judaism and Islam are not attacked as much as Christianity. Christians are by far the most, and I've looked this up, Christianity is by far the most persecuted religion in the world. And Muslims, are part of it, but also Jews are a part of it as well. I think the kind of strong Zionist influence, I should say, in the United States and in Europe is definitely an issue. And the Islamification of Europe and the United States is partly due to that Zionist influence. And it's to support a greater Israel. But that's for another time. All I'm saying is that I think, Sneako and other Muslim influencers like him definitely make me want to be more true to my faith, defend my faith unapologetically, and be proud of my faith in Christ. But with that, see you later.